My friend, let us sit together and look at something that consumes so much of your energy, so much of your life force. The stress you carry in your workplace. Every morning you walk into that office, that factory, that store, and within minutes you feel the familiar tension rising in your chest, the tightening in your shoulders, the acceleration of your heartbeat. Why does this happen? Is it really the work itself that creates the stress? Or is something else at play? Something much deeper that we rarely examine. Watch what happens the moment you step into your workplace. Before anyone speaks to you, before you even sit at your desk, there is already a shift in your energy, a tightening, a preparation for battle. Why? The mind has learned to associate this environment with pressure, with demands, with the need to perform, to compete, to prove yourself worthy. But who created this association? Who taught you to be afraid of your own workplace? Consider a typical morning at work. You check your emails and immediately the mind begins to react. This email requires a response. That one contains criticism. This one brings news of a deadline change. With each message, you feel the stress building. But have you noticed that the stress is not really about the emails themselves? It is about your reaction to them, your resistance to what is, your demand that reality should be different from what it is. Let me ask you something very direct. When your colleague makes that comment in the meeting, the one that makes your face flush with anger, where does that anger actually exist? Is it in their words? Are the words themselves angry? Or does the anger exist in your interpretation of those words, in your reaction to them? This is crucial to understand, my friend, because when you see that your stress is not caused by external circumstances but by your internal responses to those circumstances, everything changes. Watch yourself during a busy day at work. The phone is ringing, emails are pouring in, your manager wants to see you, a deadline has been moved up, a client is unhappy. In the middle of all this activity, notice what your mind is doing. It is not simply dealing with each situation as it arises. It is creating a story about how overwhelming everything is, how unfair it all is, how you cannot possibly manage all these demands. The mind is adding psychological drama to practical situations. But what would happen if you responded to each situation without the psychological overlay? The phone rings, you answer it or you do not, based on practical considerations. An email arrives with urgent demands. You read it and respond appropriately, or you prioritize it for later, without the internal commentary about how stressful your life is. A deadline changes, you adjust your schedule accordingly, without the mental story about how this always happens to you, how unfair life is. This does not mean becoming passive or irresponsible. It means responding from clarity rather than reacting from conditioning. When you remove the psychological drama from work situations, you often find that the practical challenges are much more manageable than your mind made them seem. The stress was not in the situation, it was in your resistance to the situation, in your demand that things should be different. Let us look at another common source of workplace stress: the relationship with your colleagues and superiors. Notice how much energy you spend worrying about what others think of your work, your appearance, your performance. You present an idea in a meeting, and immediately your mind begins analyzing everyone's reactions. Did they like it? Do they think I'm competent? Am I being judged? This constant self-consciousness, this need for approval, creates a state of chronic tension that has nothing to do with the actual work you're doing. But who is this person who needs approval? Watch this very carefully. When you are completely absorbed in a task, when you are giving your total attention to solving a problem or creating something, where is this person who worries about approval? In moments of complete engagement, there is no self-consciousness, no concern about image, no stress about performance. There is simply the intelligence of doing what needs to be done. This reveals something profound. Stress arises not from work itself, but from the psychological relationship you have with work. When you work from ego, from the need to prove yourself, to get ahead, to be seen as important, every task becomes a reflection of your self-worth. Every interaction becomes a potential threat to your image. But when you work from a simple love of doing, from the joy of applying your intelligence to practical challenges, work becomes expression rather than burden. Consider the difference between these two approaches during your lunch break. The ego-driven person uses lunch to network, to advance their position, to discuss work strategies, never truly resting, never allowing the mind to be quiet. But what happens when you eat your lunch in peace, tasting your food, enjoying a moment of silence, allowing your whole system to rest and regenerate? You return to work refreshed, clear, able to engage with whatever arises from a centered place rather than from accumulated tension. Notice also how stress multiplies when you carry unfinished psychological business from one interaction to the next. Your supervisor criticizes your report at 10 in the morning, and you carry that irritation, that defensiveness, that sense of injustice into your 11 o'clock meeting with a client, your noon conversation with a colleague, your afternoon project work. Each new interaction becomes colored by the residue of the previous one, creating an accumulation of stress that grows throughout the day. But what happens when you complete each interaction fully before moving to the next? Your supervisor offers criticism. You listen. You understand what is useful and what is not. And then it's finished. You do not carry it with you like a psychological burden. This does not mean becoming callous or unfeeling. It means dealing with each situation completely, learning what there is to learn, and then being free to meet the next moment fresh, without the baggage of the past. The competitive atmosphere of many workplaces creates a particular kind of stress. You are constantly measuring yourself against others. worrying about who is getting promoted, who is earning more, who is in favor with management. This comparison mind never rests, always finding new reasons for insecurity, for envy, for dissatisfaction. But have you ever noticed that when you are completely engaged in your work, when you are flowing with the task at hand, all comparison stops. There is simply the joy of doing, the satisfaction of applying your skills and intelligence to whatever is before you. True security at work does not come from position or salary or approval from others. It comes from the confidence that you can meet whatever arises with intelligence and presence. When you are not defending an image, when you are not trying to prove anything, you are free to respond creatively to challenges, to learn from mistakes, to collaborate genuinely with others. As the workday progresses, notice how stress accumulates not just from external pressures, but from your own mental habits. You check the clock and think, only 3 more hours until I can go home. This creates a split between where you are and where you want to be, between what you are doing and what you would rather be doing. This internal resistance to what is happening now creates a constant low-level stress that colors every moment of your work experience. But what happens when you give yourself completely to whatever task is in front of you, without the mental escape to 5 o'clock, to the weekend, to vacation, when you stop dividing your life into bearable and unbearable moments, into work time and free time, and instead bring total attention to what is actually happening now. This does not mean you cannot enjoy your time off. It means not poisoning your present moment with resistance to being here. The end of the workday offers another opportunity for observation. Do you leave work with a sense of completion? Or do you carry the day's tensions and unfinished business with you into your personal time? Notice how the mind continues to replay conversations, to worry about tomorrow's challenges, to carry work stress into your evening, your weekend, your relationships. This mental carrying is optional, my friend. It is a habit, not a necessity. As you prepare to leave work, can you take a moment to complete the day psychologically, to acknowledge what was accomplished, to release what remains undone, to leave the workplace energetically when you leave it physically? This simple completion allows you to transition fully into your personal time, to be present with your family, your hobbies, your rest, without the background noise of work-related anxiety. Before we part, I want to leave you with this understanding. Work stress is not an inevitable part of having a job. It is the result of unconscious patterns of thinking and reacting that can be observed and understood. When you bring awareness to these patterns, when you see how your own mind creates stress through resistance, comparison, and ego-driven concerns, you discover a natural intelligence that can meet any work situation with clarity and peace. This is not a technique to practice, but a recognition of what is always available when you are not lost in psychological drama. Right now, wherever you are, whatever work awaits you tomorrow, you can rest in this simple presence that is your natural state, free from the burden of stress, ready to meet life with an open and peaceful heart.